Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 93. Sol Standard Date 4 for the 5th, 3267. In the council chamber, the gathered councillors were trying to figure out where the Rizeri envoy was when 3 guards burst into the room and began to relate the past few minutes. The councillors were at a loss for words as they heard how so many worlds of their arch-nemesis had been nothing in the face of the Terran's enemy. Tama stood and yelled, "No, that is simply not possible. I have faced Rizeri death squads. I know full well that they would not fall so easily. Their grand fleets lasted less than an hour? Bullshit!" Gracie walked over to Tama and put her hand on his shoulder, forcing him to take a seat. "Sit, Tama. These are strange times. This is the enemy that ones who are as gods to us have had difficulty defeating. I do not find it all that strange that the Razzies are getting stomped into the dirt. No. The only thing strange is the fact that they came to us. They believe us to be their inferiors after all. No. They came for the Terrans. They don't want our help." Malem suddenly let out a petrifying scream as he started writhing on the ground. The councillors all ran over to the Moguran leader, where he suddenly stopped. Resler slithered over to him and checked that he was still alive. "Are you alright, Malenth? What happened to you?" Malenth groaned and sat up. "I am fine. We need to go and find Catherine, now, preferably," he said, as he shakily stood up. "I felt the veil get torn asunder, so I took a peek. He is very angry." Atrenta narrowed his eyes at Malenth. "Please explain in further detail, brother. Do you mean to say that God is angered and coming here? Do you suspect something happened to Catherine while she was with the Rizeri?" Malenth just weakly nodded his head. "I have not felt fresh rage from him before. His rage always felt like an ancient simmer that would continue to burn for all eternity. This time it was as a raging inferno. His rage attacked me for just looking at him." Atrenta took off towards the landing pads as quickly as possible. The rest of the council followed behind as quickly as they could. Catherine was curled up on the floor, slowly getting a hold of herself, while Azariah sat with her. Lucian and Rizeni were getting ready to leave the ship to speak with the council, when Jeff appeared in the doorway. "Nope. You've got a date with the Emperor of Man. He's on his way, so it wouldn't do to have you running around. He's going to want to speak with you, after all." Lucian hissed at him, and Rizeni flicked his head. "Stop that, Lucian. He warned you once. I don't know if you will get a second warning from this man. He reeks of danger." Lucian stopped hissing, but maintained eye contact with the giant. Jeff looked back towards the council building and smirked. "Well, it appears they are coming to us. You now have absolutely no need to leave the ship." Just then, the door opened, and a large crow came flying out at breakneck speeds before circling once and then diving for the Terran shuttle. Atrenta landed in the doorway to a bemused Jeff and a pissed-off Rizeri royal guard. "What has happened here? Malenth damn near had a stroke because he took a peek at a pissed-off god. Why has our god been angered? Is Catherine alright?" Jeff sighed. "That's a lot of questions, bud. Catherine's fine. Old Uncle Bassie's going to bring hellfire to a few Azarian hordes. That's all it is." Atrenta narrowed his eyes. "Then why is he on his way here?" Jeff exaggerated another sigh. "Because Princess Rizeni here has told Catherine a sob story, and she cried. I had Bassus speak with Rizeni through my own senses as Catherine was indisposed. Bassus then negotiated with Princess Rizeni, and is now on his way to collect her, I would assume. All of this was done in the presence of your council through Azariah over there," he said, as he swept his hand over to Azariah and Catherine. Atrenta looked back as the door opened to the building, and a flood of councillors came running out. He was about to fly out to them when he felt chills run down his spine. The other council members had stopped as well. His eyes were drawn to an empty section of a landing pad where 10 feet of sword appeared out of thin air. The councillors on the other side of it watched just as intently as Atrenta. A green pulse rang out with an otherworldly echo as it passed through everything. Then, the sword slammed down into the landing pad as if it were made of butter, and a flaming hand gripped the torn reality, pulling it further out. Bassus stepped through the rift, flames spewing from every part of his body. "Rizeni, bring yourself and your guard. We leave as soon as possible," Bassus boomed out. Atrenta watched intently as the blackened metals on Bassus's body moved and flowed to create new patterns. It seemed to be forming into something akin to scales, and his head had grown into a full set of diabolical-looking horns. Then he saw the little girl hop off his back. He watched as she grew in size, until she was as big as Basilisk, before she hunched over onto all fours and began to change into her godly dragon form. Jeff stepped to the side of the door, and bowed with a flourish of his hand gesturing for her to leave. He had locked eyes with Lucian and started smirking. Roseni gingerly stepped out of the door, and her jaw dropped. What was standing there was not the same beam from the broadcast. The Emperor himself looked to be the incarnation of death, but the beam behind him. It was 30 feet tall at least, and the wingspan had to be around 60 to 70 feet. The creature's entire being seemed to radiate malevolence and death to all. Roseni dropped her adamant in awe as she thought, "We call ourselves the Aspects of Death. No, we were playing at death. Simply because we have a deadly toxin that can kill anyone in the known universe with contemptuous ease, we thought ourselves the pinnacle of death. What will Mother think?" Basilisk walked slowly and personally over to the stunned Rizeri princess and her guard, who was looking increasingly terrified as he stepped closer. Once he stood in front of Roseni, he knelt down and looked the rest of the way down to her. "I need your memories of your home. I will perform a spell that should be relatively easy now that I'm hooked into the veil itself. I will ask your permission before looking through your memories. However, every moment that we linger and hesitate is another million Rizeri dead. Make your decision, Roseni," he said, as he stood back up to his full height. Roseni bowed. "As you will it, my king. I am thinking of my home now. You may begin." Basilisk got a faraway look in his eyes as he heard her say, "King." "What did I do now? I thought I handled that well. Well, at least it's not of another cult. I can just turn this one down." Basilisk began the spell. "Sora Demos Lenta, Turboket Abune Font, Crea a Riftus Lena Memoria." Basilisk pulled apart reality once more and stepped through the gaping hole that had formed in the air before turning and beckoning the spiders inside. Roseni and Lucian slowly peeked into the rift and marveled at the land that lay beyond, a green, glass-like substance. The land stretched into eternity, and there were signs of ancient battles everywhere. A mountain in the distance looked as though it had a hole blown through it, still smouldering. When Roseni looked at the ground and saw faces pressed up into the air through the ground with silent screams portrayed to the world, she realized that she was in the land of the dead. Her people had only caught glimpses of it after imbibing too much venom, but never enough detail to put together a coherent story. As they walked forward, Lucian asked the golden question, "What are you?" Basilisk turned his head to the tiny creature and smiled. "I am but a man. I just so happened to go through some things that made me a bit different. Please treat me as you would anyone else. I don't really appreciate the stuffy air of people trying to appease me. Believe it or not, it has the opposite effect." Lucian looked at him with disbelief. "You have literal godlike powers, and you say that you want to be treated normally?" Basilisk regarded him with a sad look. "Rarely do we get what we want. I did not choose to become this powerful for lording power over others. I became like this from uncountable eons spent trying to both survive and get revenge on a god. As it turns out, getting revenge on a literal god is rather difficult when you have the power of a simple man, so I became more, for both vengeance and survival. Nothing more." Lucian looked down as he remembered leaving behind his family and friends, watching the world burning, and watching the fleet shatter against tentacles. "Could I become that strong if I just put my mind to it?" Roseni spoke up next. "What is the beast next to you? I sense a power similar to yours from it." Basilisk looked at her for a moment. "She is my future wife. Also, she's the goddess who used to preside over death, later hatred," he said as he thought. "Guess I can get two birds with one stone here. Now she won't call me her king." Amaram swung her head back and Ali whispered, "Basilisk, stop it. My chest is all fuzzy now," she said, as she swung her head back the other way and covered the sides of her face with her wings. Roseni's jaw dropped once more. "You are betrothed to a goddess? I apologize for my slight, my queen," she practically yelled, as she bowed her head to the ground. Amaranth peeked over her wing at the spider. "I like this one, Bassie." Basilisk just sighed in defeat.